How you doing? And welcome to the first of our semi-final debriefs from the Rugby League World Cup 2021 that's being staged in 2022. This first one's close to my heart, as you can tell from my accent. I was born and raised in the north of England. I've had to grow up with England not winning, or Great Britain that is, not winning World Cups, not winning Ashes series throughout all my lifetime. And to be honest, it's now stretched to over a 50-year period. So that's half a century. And I believe that for a country such as England, this is disgraceful. The Ashes in particular are only a two-horse race, and to have not won one series in 50 years. The World Cup, let's face it, for many years there's been three teams that could win it. So a three-horse race. For us not to have even been at the winner's podium in at least one of those occasions means to me that some people need to either lock themselves in a room and work out the answers for a long time, or they need to give up and let somebody else have a go. So I make no apologies, guys. I talk with a lot of emotion on this subject. I grew up wanting England, Great Britain to beat Australia in an Ashes series. Well, guess what? This World Cup, they didn't even play Australia, and I dread to think what may have happened. There's an awful lot wrong with the English Rugby League system in terms of producing enough players for the national team that are of quality. Don't get me wrong, I am not having a go at the current crop of players or the coach. They tried their hardest, but I've got some evidence in this video that I think the pressure really got to them. The pressure heaped on them from people in the media back home in England, the people on the streets, the people in rugby league. In general, people started saying the right things about England. But for England, it could have been the worst things. And there was actually signs in that game against Samoa. They played better when they were actually behind on the scoreboard. There's almost an element of pressure off you if you're already behind on the scoreboard. There's actually more pressure in holding a winning position because you might lose it. Whereas if you're behind, have you got anything to lose, really? So there is evidence to suggest that. And I implore you to have a look at the clock and the score line when you're looking at the clips that I look at with you. The English players are talented. Of course they are. But what they're not used to is doing such things under pressure consistently. I've had discussions on social media and said that Super League's at fault. People have argued with me and said, well, there's a lot of players that are playing in the NRL currently. Yes, there are. But they've played the majority of their rugby league in England and also their formative professional career in Super League. So with the exception of Herbie Farnworth, they've all basically been produced in the Super League. We, of course, had Victor Radley too, and even he fell into the trap and gave away an intercept. It's very hard for you as the listener, I think, to differentiate what I'm saying in terms of the system and the current crop of players. I'm really proud of those England players. I think there's a lot of talent there, but under crunch situation, they were found wanting. And I blame the system for that, not the player and not their training methods or anything like that. I'm going to share my screen and hopefully this will prove some points to you. One of the key things where you know the pressure is getting to somebody is if they overkick something or underkick something, and there's an overkick there. Also, this defensive scenario on the right-hand side, you can tell there's a little bit of disorganization, lack of communication, simple errors on the right side. Again, they're the things that happen when players are under pressure and they're feeling the pinch. I will just stop the screen share for a second to go into more detail about the physiology of it, if you like. What basically happens in a sporting event or when you're under pressure is that the blood that goes around your body, because it's not evenly distributed, goes to the limbs to help you to fly, fight or flight. And that can basically starve the brain of some sensible thinking. And that's why the more you train in a fight or flight scenario, or the more you play in a fight or flight scenario, the better you become at doing things under pressure. Because it needs to be what you do when you revert to type. English players haven't been exposed to the tough, grinding game that you quite often see in the NRL. I remember watching the Tonga and Samoa game the week before and saying to my father, I said, England won't be able to stay with this. They were able to stay with Samoa, but ultimately they didn't get the bickies. Let's go back to the video. This is a kick that Don Young would have taken 99 times out of 100, but he took his eyes off the ball at the last minute. Again, a sign of pressure. England defending their own goal line, and they fly out the line and concede a try in the corner. If you didn't see that clearly, we're now going to take you through the full set. We've skipped to the point where they're one tackle away. Look how England rush out the line. That's just manna from heaven for Jerome Luai and Tim Laffey. Here's another over kick, another symptom of playing under pressure. England miss passing when they are in a position to possibly attack and score. This one was interesting for me. It was a dink through, and look at the reaction from some of the players. You'd think it was the end of the world. That just shows how much pressure the England players had piled on themselves. Here's another scenario where they got the kick too weighted and it went in touch. And yes, it was in touch. When you look at the video ref, it bounced on the line. It got worse when England were in the crunch moments later in the game too. That ball should have gone wide. If you don't believe me, I'm going to take the tape back and I'm going to pause it. Look how short the Samoan defence is on the bottom of the screen. Instead, they've gone short. Now, again, that's a classic symptom of pressure. It makes you jumble up some of your decision-making processes. And if they're not ingrained in you through repetition under pressure, so that they're habit, you will get them wrong in a crunch situation, just like England did here. We're now looking at golden point. Really, all England need to do is get this ball out. Now, before I go any further, one thing that they have done here is they've took three plays and then decided to shift. And that's relatively easy for a defence to read because that's 50% of the plays gone. And that's also something that England did quite a lot, but they did it even more when they're under pressure because it's a nice, safe way of playing. Now, what this was, I don't know. Let's just go through that again. So they've taken three plays to get to this area of the field, and they're now going to shift. Nothing too bad here. Nothing too bad here. If they go to, I would say, the back man, then they might have some joy, although these two runners here seem a little bit close. Watch what happens now, though. He basically throws the ball to himself. So he's the back man. He's got the ball. And instead of running the line or making a decisive decision, he throws the ball to himself. This is in golden point. All they had to do, England, was truck the ball down the other end of the field. Then they get a second chance. And again, this is pressure doing funny things and amazing things to people. That's good goal forward. Do three more of them. Get down the other end of the field. But no, a simple overrun of the pass and it goes forward. And the rest is history. Stephen Crichton kicks a field goal. I've had a discussion with people on social media this week who said that might have been the dummy half's fault. To be fair, he's just got to look up and pass. There's as much onus on the runner to time his run properly. England didn't execute by the coach's own admission. The reason they didn't execute is because they struggled to under pressure.